ready, get ready, get ready. It's Let's Talk Business with SJC. I'm here for the first hour of the show with my co-host, Derrick Blue.
What's going on, everybody?
Well,
I'm so excited.
I know we are excited. Usually, Derrick and I, when we get together during the month of, actually March, he's a basketball player. I just happen to love the game.
Yes.
Now, I must ask you, Mr. Power Forward, and who can play multiple roles on that court. I must ask, what was your pick for the NCAA finals?
You know what?
Was you a bear or were you a jag?
You know, my team didn't do it, but by default, I'll be a bear. But I'm a Florida State Seminole fan.
Absolutely. We're
So
Florida, period.
yes, we're Florida, but yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I kind of chime out whenever my team doesn't get there.
Oh, no. Well, I tell you what, that Final Four was something else, all four stages of it. And so we get to talk about March Madness rolling on into the month of April. So we
Yes,
are excited. We've got some things going on. You're going to hear about the blueprint that
yes,
you get every first hour of the show. And we are so excited to have a friend of our SAP family.
yes.
So if you're listening in today, please take the opportunity to like and share this page and tag a friend because as the flyer indicated, we are introducing or having discussions about two phenomenal programs that's going to not just help you if you're a small business owner, but if that's been your thought or as you've gone through this pandemic, you begin to ask yourself some questions. Maybe you are working for a corporation and you're no longer doing that position now. You've been entertaining the thought of starting your own business. We have the perfect program for
Yes.
you. And so, welcome back to the show. I'm going to take an opportunity to welcome our special guest, Mrs. Annabelle Ship. Welcome to Let's Talk Business with Derrick Blue and Joe.
Thank you, Cheryl. Nice to see you and Derrick both. I just want to contribute to that basketball talk and let you know that I was a right guard in high school, which is actually more
What?
impressive than it sounds because
Okay.
I'm only 5'3", so that was kind of remarkable that I made the team. But we'll
Wow.
have to play it out on the court one day.
That is
Yes.
awesome. Well, you know what? We're going to look you up. When we last year, before the pandemic, we were planning a March Madness, a tour right here on the campus of 5508. It was going down, girl. We had already reached out to sponsors,
Yes.
to athletic organizations. We even reached out to some of the professional teams.
We
Then
even
there were
had
a
our
group of
teams
women.
ready.
Yeah, there were a group of women that wanted to bring their teams. And so you would be perfect. Perfect. Look, if you still can play a little b-ball.
Okay, I'll bring the short team.
Well, listen, as I alluded to, you are a friend to the
Yes.
SAP group, but let's take this opportunity and I'll allow you to tell us who you are and how that you get to where you are today in helping so many potential and small business owners.
Okay,
Annabelle?
great. I'd love to tell my story. I'm going to take you back to being in my early 20s. And I grew up in Montreal. I moved from Montreal to Boston because I wanted to be a professional cello player, a cellist. And at that time, I had 2 suitcases, a cello, and $1,200 that I'd managed to save up from playing string quartets in the summer. I moved to Boston. I was an illegal alien. I didn't have a green card yet, but I'd arranged to study with a cellist in the Boston Symphony. And I got going. But what happened is within a couple of years, I'd be sitting in my room practicing and ideas for businesses kept popping up.
Mm.
Inventions, businesses. It was very, very distracting and I couldn't do my work. And it brought me back to when I was a child. I'd been fascinated from business. I have the ubiquitous lemonade stands. I would sell my comic books. I mean, I always had a little side hustle going as a child. So that came roaring back. And I realized that I had this inner entrepreneur that was just struggling to get out. And I'm sure there are people listening today who can understand that. And I was so distracted, I had to finally listen to that voice. I was a struggling music student at the time. I had no money. but I decided I wanted to open up one of the first green stores in the country selling environmental products. So how do you start a store when you haven't got any money?
Yeah.
Somehow I managed to figure that out. And I learned how to bootstrap my business, even though I didn't know what the term meant at the time. The internet had just started, so it wasn't as if I could just go on the web and find things, but I went to the library and I found a directory that listed all of the manufacturers. And I just started calling around till I finally found a publisher that was willing to send me a book on credit. So I didn't have to pay for it. They sent me 50 copies of a book called, I'm trying to remember the name, but how to save the planet. I think it's called How to Save the Planet in 50 Days, something like that, or 50 Ways to Save the Planet. That's what it was called. And I set up at an Earth Day fair because it was now 1990. It was the 20th anniversary of Earth Day, and they were having Earth Day fairs every weekend in schools, in churches, out on the street. And so I sold those 50 copies within the first 2 weeks, paid the manufacturer, paid the publisher. They were now willing to send me 100 books. And now I had enough money. Now they would also serve as a reference for me. And I could tell other manufacturers that I was good on my credit. And so I was able to order a second product, and then a third product, and then a fourth product. And within 4 or 5 months, I had enough money saved to put down a down payment on a shop. And I basically just went from there. I went from just being creative, being frugal, and learning step by step. So flash forward 25 years.
Oh my.
I now had 4 other businesses. I'd had 5 businesses. I sold my final business in 2015 because I had come down to Florida on a vacation with my husband, and we had fallen in love with Dunedin, Florida. We wanted to move here. So we made a 5-year plan. We sold the business. We moved down here. And I was like, I'm too young to retire. I tried, playing tennis every day and just enjoying life, but I really had a desire to do something because that's just innate in my personality. And so I figured out how to marry my fascination with entrepreneurship I'd had since I was a child, my love of teaching. I'd always taught something over the years, and my desire now to give back to society. And I decided to start a nonprofit called BootStrap Business School. So how do you start a nonprofit? Well, looking back, I now see that it's actually harder to do than to start a business. And those of you who run nonprofits will understand that. But the first thing I did was I wrote to Craig Richard, who is the CEO of the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council. And he wrote back to me in 11 minutes and he said, come see me. So he was my first mentor, the first person I went and spoke to. And he said, I can see the need for this because I wanted to work, not only help people start businesses, but work in low income neighborhoods in the Tampa Bay area and give people who don't usually have the opportunity to learn how to start a business a leg up and teach them these techniques that I had learned just by default of how you can start a business literally with no money, no experience, no connections, but through the process of bootstrapping and starting where you are, not taking loans, not even writing business plans, but planning through action plans.
So Annabelle.
So I'm still meeting with Craig on a regular basis. He's been a wonderful mentor. But then the next step is I have to find a location to make this first program go. So somehow I heard about THAP 5508. So again, I wrote an email to Derrick Blue this time. Again, and I actually know this is kind of not characteristic of Derrick to respond like immediately, but I heard right back from Derrick and he said, come see me. And I drove to THAP 5508. I was just fascinated by the fact that they'd taken this old storage facility and turned it into co-working, and it was fantastic. And Derrick and I sat down. I showed him my plan. I had already put together an entire curriculum. And he looked at me, and within 15 minutes, we had an agreement that I would run my first program, my first boot camp at THAP 5508. So THAP 5508 and Derrick are an integral part of launching this organization.
Wow, what an introduction. Now we've got to take a step back for just a moment. Tell us about the 5 businesses that you started, just the type of businesses that you started, because now you've got to take us from being an entrepreneur to deciding to establish a nonprofit. That's like night and day.
Okay, well, the first company was a store that sold eco-friendly products, a green store. I was one of the first ones in the country to open, and at least the last, if not second to last, to actually close. Because when I started the business, I knew that the products would eventually go mainstream. I mean, I was selling things like recycled toilet paper and compost bins and energy efficient light bulbs. And I had to always stay ahead of the curve. So as those products went mainstream in Home Depot and Whole Foods, I had to find other products like clothing. And so I just kept going. And one year, some people walked into the store. They were all dressed in suits and they were writing down notes. And I thought they were espionage. I thought they were trying to, find my sources. But it turned out that they were buyers from a large grocery chain in the Boston area. And they approached me because they were opening up eco-friendly boutiques within their grocery stores to compete with Whole Foods. Whole Foods wasn't quite as widely spread at the time. And they asked me if I would set up, basically, my store was called the Green Planet. So they wanted me to set up Green Planet boutiques within their grocery stores.
Okay.
So I started an entire wholesale business that sold to this chain was called Star Market at the time. It's now been purchased by another chain, but I sold to their stores, which were called Wild Harvest. Eventually I got into Whole Foods and I had several hundred products that I wholesaled. And again, I did it by bootstrapping because I didn't have the money to go out and manufacture my own products. So I sourced products at a low enough volume, or not volume, but low volume, and also a margin that I could then repackage them, retag them, and resell them to the stores. So I did that for many, many years. What happened was eventually my biggest customer, who was this chain, got purchased by a larger conglomerate, and I would have had to go through a distributor, and my numbers didn't really work at that point. And I was also still really into having my retail business. So I decided to take that path. Probably wasn't the best financial choice, but it was a choice based on lifestyle. And then at one point I opened up a yoga studio because I could see that whole trend emerging. And then at one point around 2002, when we were going through a recession and most of the products I was selling ended up going mainstream, I realized I had to find another concept. And so I closed the eco-friendly store, sold off the merchandise, and opened up an eco-friendly toy store. I basically followed the products that were doing really well. And I opened up an eco-friendly toy store, again, ahead of the curve of everybody else. And then my final business was a drop-in center of arts and crafts center for children, where people could drop their kids off, pay by the hour. We'd keep them busy with projects. And I sold that and the toy store together as one unit in 2015. So that's my story.
Listen, that's your story, but more importantly, are you putting your stories together in your book?
I am working on a book, as a matter of fact. And a big part of the organization, when we run the boot camps, I'm going to tell you more about the boot camp, but I'm the lead trainer, but we have 19 guest speakers, and we're all telling stories, because when you're standing in front of a group of people, one way that you can get them to is by telling your story, because they can connect to that. So I interweave all of my stories over the 15 days. And basically what I'm trying to do is, I know I made every mistake possible. I know I made all the mistakes. And so I'm trying to share those mistakes with other people so they can make different mistakes, because they'll make mistakes, but why make the mistakes that I've already learned from if I can show you not to make those mistakes?
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
And
well,
who
Derrick,
better to tell that story?
Who better to tell it?
Right.
So this is a perfect segue. It also sounds like she learned something early on too. And this is what we as business owners, and especially those young entrepreneurs coming up, Diva J, and you remember this, Derrick, she says it a lot. There are times when you're in the company of others, or you're in a room, you need to make yourself known. Be present, not just standing in the room. And so if that means you meet a person, you go out, you get their information, and then you communicate. At the beginning of the year, we talked about collecting data and collaborating in order to be able to complete a project. And she just spewed all three of those out. So I'm going to segue this on to Derrick Blue, who is developing the blueprint as a result of this business partnership. So now, Derrick, you tell us, after you got that email, and how did we end up to where we are today with Annabelle on our show?
Well, I'll say this right here. One thing that BootStrap teaches that is in our DNA, or I would even say even in my DNA and in the DNA of our organization, is that it doesn't have to be perfect to start. You perfect it along the way. And a lot of people don't start businesses. They don't go after what they truly want to do because they're waiting on something to be perfect. And then they want to
Yeah.
start. And when you talk about bootstrap, one of the things, I believe in divine appointments. I believe that there are some conversations that need to happen
Yes.
and they're supposed to happen. And I'm not quite sure why um, that I answer
Say it to
within
preacher.
30 seconds, I guess, whatever it was, but I did. And I can say I was glad I did because, when Annabelle came in, we began to have conversations about her passion, and you
Yes.
could not and cannot mistake her passion for what it is that she's doing. And I realized, I'm saying, this is good. Why? Because she told my story, but just in a different way.
Yes.
Those 5 businesses and all of that, that was like, I was like, wow. And we began to talk, and a lot of our conversation was stories. I mean, and you can see kind of why that's even in the DNA of Bootstrap for Business, is that their stories. And she began to tell me, and I'm saying, man, we and I'm telling myself, I told my team, I said, we're going to help this. We're
Yes.
going to help her, and we're going to do it. We'll find a way. And typically that's even the way that we even do now, is that, hey, Derrick got this idea. Tell me how we can do it. And we've kind of formed this partnership of support. And that's my philosophy. I believe in Annabelle and what she's doing, and how she's going about doing it, because there are a lot of people whose vision gets stalled out before it can even get started, because
Yes.
they're waiting on some grand explosion or something major to happen before they even get started. So from there, we formed our partnership, and we made room for Bootstrap Business School at 5508. And I believe that when you say you're going to support something, and you come to an agreement, you find a way to make that happen along the way, because it's all strategic and we all need each other.
Absolutely. 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 And you know what, Derek? And some of this is I'm gonna give it to divine intervention, because to hear Annabelle say you answer the email in 15 minutes and this is being recorded, that you were having an out of body experience.
The Lord just came down and reached and hit.
Just came down and rained on that. I'm telling you right now. And so as I'm listening to you and Derek, you're a fighter for the underdog, and I've been a part of
Absolutely.
this team, and I've seen you take individuals that had nothing but poured into them and their vision, and as well that board. You always are able to see even beyond what others may see in themselves. And to your point, Annabelle, here's the thing, and what Derek said. Sometimes people will have too much noise going on and listening to other people tell them why they can't do something. And we heard you say starting a business without the financial resources. Today, if
Absolutely.
you're talking to some experts, they will tell you that is not the way to go. But if it's something that it's on you and it's in you and you can't sleep, it constantly comes to you, then you take that faith walk. And
Yeah,
will you make some mistakes? Absolutely. But I know you're getting ready to answer that. But I wanted to ask you one more question before Derek comes back. And you've talked about all of your businesses, and I can see a pattern there. You truly are an eco-friendly, conscientious consumer in order to take that direction to start a business. That's hard in and of itself, because sometimes we as consumers are still trying to understand what that means, eco-friendly. But I heard you say, I didn't even know what bootstrap was. And I don't want anyone listening to this show, and please like and share this show so others can hear what you did in starting your business. And so you were doing your research. What then finally came to you and said, oh, that's what bootstrap is? So what is bootstrap to you, and where did you finally get the definition that you decided to name your business program after, number one? And number two, how you get to the place to where you want to serve the underserved or the low socioeconomic community?
Okay,
Annabelle?
let me answer number two first. So first of all,
Okay.
I was the kind of kid that always wanted to befriend the child who was being bullied, or the new immigrant, or the kid that was sitting alone in the side of the room. I was just always like that. I also had a Jamaican grandmother, so I had just a love of Black culture. And so I think again, it was one more thing that got married into me with when I put all of this together. It's just a very natural feeling for me. As far as number one, I don't think I actually even thought of the term bootstrapping until I decided to do this school. And then I looked back and said, what did I do? I bootstrapped. And bootstrapping is basically starting a business with the resources you already have. You don't get a loan. You don't, mortgage your house. You don't, ruin your relationships with your friends because you've taken money you can't pay back. And so there are actually 5 components to how we teach this boot camp. Number one is the bootstrapping. So you use frugality and creativity to start your business, and you figure out how to make things happen. And once you've done that, you've exercised that frugal muscle, that frugality muscle, so that for the rest of your career, you've learned how to do that. Number 2 is you keep your job. So when I started, I was, you remember, I was a cello student. At that time, I was supporting myself by teaching cello lessons. What was great was that my parents had said to me, maybe you need a backup job, a backup career to being a cellist, because it's a very risky career. It's hard to make money. It's hard to get selected for an orchestra. Well, it turned out that my skills as a cellist were my backup career to start my business, because I was able to teach students in the evening and on the weekends, and not take any money out of my business. I was able to reinvest all the money I made, all the profit, so I wasn't draining the business to support myself.
Key point.
Number 3, and this is something that Derrick just talked about, is often we have giant dreams, and because they're so big, they're almost impossible to get into. They paralyze us. So we teach people how to take a big dream, like maybe they want to start a restaurant, but there's a step they can take right now and start making money. So if they want to start a restaurant, they could start off by going to all of their local office buildings, once the pandemic ends, of course, and asking people if they will prepay for lunches, make a menu together, and then go out and buy the materials, make your lunch, deliver it, take orders for the next day. We have a student that graduated from the program who's done this with Facebook. She posts on Facebook once a week, and she takes orders, and she delivers casseroles and full shrimp dinners. And so there's a way to take any large business, except for maybe a big tech business. That's not really what we're doing, but there are plenty of support in Tampa for that. But pretty much any other large business can be broken down to a step that you can start immediately and start making money, and then slowly reinvest. And that's how you bootstrap. That's how you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Number 4 is scrapping business plans, because most people, first of all, if you walk up and down Main Street, USA, which is the largest part of business in the United States, you will be hard pressed to find someone who actually wrote a business plan. What they did is they went out and they did it. They figured out how to do it, and they did it. And not to say that we don't have to plan, because you do.
Okay.
But when you write a business plan, what usually happens is you're guessing what you're doing. You stick it in a drawer, and then you say, now what? What's the next step? And what we do is we teach those steps, because you need to know, okay, what's the first step? You have to register your business. You have to come up with a name to register your business. You should reserve that on all the social media platforms. Once you've done that, you need to open a business bank account. How do you do that? You have to go to the IRS and get a blanked out on the name, an EIN. And so there's all the steps of what you do to actually take your dream and put it into action is what we teach. And then number 5, which I think is the absolute biggest thing that we do, is that everyone needs a boost of confidence. And what holds people back usually is they're lacking confidence. And this is across the entire spectrum, economically, anything. It's just, we all need somebody to help us with confidence. So we put people together in a room, and we give them a giant injection of confidence, and we teach them how to keep that confidence going. So those are the 5 differences of how we teach. And how we teach it is that we run this very intense boot camp, because that creates community and a support system and accountability that you don't get when you only meet once a week. We make it fun. We make it engaging. We tell stories. We use active entrepreneurs, not academics. We have people who actually are running businesses or have run businesses and have bootstrapped themselves. We have tech coaches that help people build their website, do their profiles on LinkedIn, design their promotional materials on Canva. And we offer ongoing support. So after they graduate from the program, they get invited into our weekly mastermind on Sunday night, and they get invited into our new virtual Bootstrap community circle, where there's all kinds of resources and the conversation continues. So it's really very different from every other program that's out there. And it's very much geared towards somebody who wants to start a business, but doesn't have the money, the know-how, or the connections.
Oh my goodness. I love those 5 points. We would call that here the bootstrap blueprint.
Yes.
Right.
Take it, Derrick Blue.
Yeah, I mean, and really, when you look at that, what's kind of fascinating when you talked about one of your first companies, how it was eco-friendly, and somebody, having myself having a background in eco, still kind of in that arena now. One of the programs we have is um, when you talk about being eco-friendly, you are taking what already exists, to create an energy source. And isn't that true about entrepreneurship? Um,
Absolutely.
you take what already exists. You don't have to necessarily have to create a resource. You have to just use what's already been made available. And a lot of folks don't even realize that they already have what they need. It's just a matter of how do you look at it. I say this all the time. Entrepreneurs look at trees and see tables.
Yeah.
Um, you look at it and you say, okay, what's the best way? And I think one of the greatest traits of an entrepreneur is resourcefulness, understanding what to do with what you have. And a lot of people, don't understand that. And you're right. Business plans, they have their place, I guess, somewhere, business canvas models. But one of the most important tools you have to have is the ability to be able to see what could be and figure out a way, because there are no rules as long as you're not breaking the law. I mean, there's no rules that say this is how you have to do a thing. This is how you have to start. But I told a story. I got a few stories. I told one in the at BootStrap a few years back about um, how I did some things that I probably don't have the nerve to do now. But because I took the risk and because I used the resources that were available, they were extremely lucrative for me and my family. So that's what it's about. That's what 5508 is about. I mean, we did what we did on a bootstrap. Without the support of everything that people are walking on right now. Of course, now I think things are kind of happening, but 5508, that vision um, was accomplished using our resources that already existed.
And that's the beautiful thing about resources. You have them. They're all around you. They begin with you. And you really have to do an evaluation of yourself. Look at your gifts and your talents and your abilities
Right.
and that thing that comes easy for you, that thing that you would do it for free because you're so passionate about it and you're good at it and you know about it. Sometimes you just need that person to come along with some advice and some suggestions and a little bit of mentorship. And that's what you get. So we take the 15 minutes of her fame with the blueprint master, Derrick Blue, here on the campus of 5508. You've decided to push through her program, created the Bootstrap program, housed it right here on 5508, open up the opportunities for the collaborators. And that's the thing about bringing programs like this to 5508. It's also what you all do, which is part of your mission in supporting the young business owners that you have here on campus. And you also help those who are existing mainstay, anchor businesses. So what we're going to do is take that information, talk more about when you partner together, bringing Bootstrap onto the campus, and because of that partnership, what's happening 3 years later today on the campus of 5508. So we're going to take a break, use this opportunity to put the backdrop up, and we'll see you back in 2 minutes. Back in a moment.
That's a good first segment.
Just Talk with Madam CJ. Right here on In Touch Radio. Every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Talk to me, baby.
Trap Talk, y'all. On In Touch Radio.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
And we are back. Welcome back to Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Cousteau. I'm here with my co-host, Derrick Blue, who has been... You're back? Listen, before we get back into the business of the show, I want to take a moment to shout out In Touch News, In Touch Radio. I was listening to the commercials coming on the commercial break. And Derrick, it's great to hear commercials coming from your collaborators.
Absolutely. I was thinking about that too. When I heard the Let's Talk Business
radio station is on the campus
of 5508.
Absolutely. I mean, when I heard the introductions and I think about the businesses, Madam CJ, Let's Talk Business, all of those are
Ricky.
All of those businesses are located right here on the campus. And it's amazing. You know, I was talking earlier today, I was talking with one of our senators' offices today and talking about, you know, what our overall mission is. And the best way that I can describe it when I talk about THAP and what we're trying to do is to be an important piece of the economic engine. That's, you know, it's not a silver bullet. It's a collaborative effort. And that's why it's important to understand that no one organization can do it, but it's a collaborative effort of many different pieces that build this engine. And that's how we push our community. That's how we drive our community, you know, into a better place. So I'm excited. I mean, every time I get a chance to, you know, to be live and to really talk about just business and economic development holistic, I'm always excited to do that.
And it's great that we have the platform that you get to do that as you're pushing out this economic engine. You also have the media platform here supporting you as well.
Radio.
Listen, In Touch News Radio, you have it right here, DSI Black Pages. And there are so many collaborators who are also in the publication. So Annabelle, when you come and you become part of this partnership, you really never leave.
Absolutely. And I want to say one thing that's incredibly refreshing about Derrick is that he really is a collaborationist, because there are a lot of organizations in the area who think of this as a scarcity situation. So, you know, if you take my students, there won't be any space I won't have enough students. And I really see this as abundance. There are so many people that need help. And Derrick feels that same way. He wants to help me succeed. I want to help him succeed, because what we want to do ultimately is help people succeed in improving their lives, starting their own businesses, and increasing their finances. So, but he is very rare that way. And it's one very, very refreshing thing about THAP 5508 and about Derrick is that he sees that vision that if we all work together, we'll be able to help more people. And I love that. And that's part of why I'm part of this family now.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family. Listen, when Derrick Blue stepped on the campus, it was not 5508. When Derrick Blue stepped on this unpaved gravel kind of landscape, we didn't have the beautiful palm trees that you see today. The buildings didn't even look like this. When he stepped on the campus, you saw somewhat of a dilapidated warehouse in transition to becoming a hub as an incubator. When he stepped on the campus, if you look down at his feet, and I met him a long time ago, you saw, what do they call them? Steel toe boots.
Steel toe boots.
and so and so look at this picture. Derrick, who took that picture?
uh, right here behind me.
Yes.
So who took this picture behind me and the suit that I'm actually wearing all came from 5508
To my point.
members. The photographer, Shawnette Stokes, I call her a lawtographer because she's also an attorney.
Yeah.
And she's STAP's attorney for a lot of things. So
and where was her first office?
And her first office was suite number 8 at 5508. And then the suit that I have on came. In fact, the shirt that I'm wearing now, as well as the suit that's behind me, came from the Style Lab at 5508. That's Rick Rollins. I actually, Sunday, Rick opened his store for my wife and I to go. I needed some shirts.
Wait, which store now? Were you at Ricardo's or the Style Lab?
I was at Ricardo's at West Shore Mall.
West Shore Mall.
And that's the thing about partnership. Rick was willing to take a text from me early in the morning and me saying, "Hey, I need a shirt." He said, "Well, the mall is closed because it's Easter Sunday, but I'll meet you up there." And we went in, and I was able to spend, a few $100s with him, as well as, and that suit came from a collaborator. I think I may have gotten that tie from somewhere else, but pretty much everything that I have on currently, as well as what's behind you, came from a 5508 member.
And to my point, years ago, it was those steel toe boots. Today, brother has a different walk, a different step. And when you look at that picture, he is stepping right onto the cover of somebody's GQ magazine.
You know what?
And give him the blueprint, Derrick.
and I actually was able to step on the cover of DSI Black Pages.
Absolutely.
In 2017, 2018. That was amazing. And
it was amazing. It was our 25th anniversary cover.
And it was amazing. So when we talk about the blueprint, really kind of taking a look at that, it's amazing how you just reminded me of how how things can kind of come full circle when you have the right motives and you have the right passion. And as you mentioned, that space where you are right now, I think you're in your office out there.
Yes.
Suite 2. Suite number 2 is where Cuso and Associates / DSI Black Pages is. But when you look at that, I remember stepping on as simply into this organization as an inspector who was responsible for making sure that the grounds were clean, moving furniture, moving files, doing all of those things to that I was hired to do at the time.
Yeah.
And as God would have it, and working hard, and being in the right place, perhaps at the right time. I think I was posed at that time in the capacity of the actual developer. I wasn't the CEO at the time. We had a CEO who I worked closely with, and this collectively, this concept of an incubator was visualized by her, myself, and our executive team at the time. And we didn't have a lot of we had a little bit of money, but we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't have the connections. But what we did was we looked around us and we saw Cheryl Cuso,
Yeah.
who we saw some community folks and we said, let's put this together. So Cheryl said, here's what I can do. I'm team Thap. And we went
Still
and we
Team
did
Thap.
and we did again. And this was, we didn't have a big marketing budget, but what we
Nope.
did was grassroots and said, let's pick up the phone and let's call
Yes.
50 people that you know and just say, come on out. The place was still ugly, but we were not trying to show the ugly. We were trying to show the vision.
Yes.
And I think that when people see your vision and when people see your hunger and you paint the picture, even though they can't physically see it, it automatically is attractive. And when we talk about the blueprint, so that's been my philosophy, and my professional philosophy is to be a connector, be a door in the midst of a bunch of walls. Be a door in the midst of a bunch of walls. And as a result, we were able to convince the city of Tampa and a few other stakeholders to support what we were doing.
Yes.
Because it's never been about us. It's never been about, it's never been a selfish ambition. It's been, how do we effectively support the people in the community through entrepreneurship? And even as a CEO, there are people who look at me and say, Derrick, why are you taking the time even messing with that person?
I know.
But I ask questions and I answer that question sometimes internally, but I answer that question because somebody had to look at me and somebody had to give me an opportunity to do it, to do something and to perhaps see something in me that, that they was like, you know what, this person needs a chance. This person needs an opportunity. And of course, you get burned. Of course, that's just a part of life. But doesn't matter because I've been able to witness, and I talk about this gentleman all the time, who's actually a presenter at BootStrap as well. But I think about Ben Walker.
Yes.
Who, when we had the grand
My
opening for the
neighbor.
mask company. He started, he came on campus with a book bag and a laptop, and he sat in our co-working space. But I noticed something that was quite different about him is that he was just focused. He always had the right attitude. And I look at people like that like case studies to me. He just had the right attitude about everything. It was the right attitude, and he stayed focused, and he worked, like you said, Cheryl, for a year. He worked there, and then I watched him keep going. Guys, I need to go get a bigger suite, so we put him in what we call Shawshank, which was like a 50 square foot cell of an office space with a desk and a filing cabinet, and he worked it. And
Yes,
then
he did.
6 to 8 months later, he moved into a larger suite, which was about 288 square feet. And then I watched his business begin to explode to where it went from just him to then now to an employee, then the stacking boxes. His whole lobby is full with boxes of wall plates and the products that he was selling. And then to 2018, moving out into a 5,000 square foot warehouse and hiring people. And then 2020, taking a major pivot to being a large PPE provider. So it's amazing, and I study that. And whereas I try not to say 5508 is the sole reason for that, because I know we're not, but I feel like we provided an environment and an atmosphere to help to be a springboard for him. And he tells his own story. He attributes a lot of his success, to what he was able to accomplish at our space. So, when you talk about a blueprint, it's a whole bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? It's a whole bunch of stuff that you put together, and you may not be able to tackle it all at one time, but you just got to take it piece by piece and move forward.
And part of that forward movement, Annabelle, you were there 3 years ago, and I actually had the pleasure of coordinating and styling the leadership elevation ceremony and dinner for the new Thap CEO, in that of Mr. Derrick Blue. So when we talk about collaborating and using the resources within, we tapped into a lot of resources. You, Annabelle, you were at that event. So here we are back again today. You told us about your program, and this is what I need you to tell us right now. I need you to give us the date and the time, and if there is a need, what that need is, and if not, let us know how you're ready to go. And then Derrick, you come back and talk about SAP Accelerated Business Program because you still have faith in your program. Annabelle?
Okay, so first of all, the program has switched from being an in-person program to now being a virtual program because of the pandemic. And that's been kind of a silver lining because we're going to be now live on Zoom, 21 workshops live on Zoom. People can work better around their jobs. The workshops are on the weekends and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening. We have the class is almost full for the program that starts on April 10th, but we might be able to squeeze 1 or 2 people in. So if they're interested, they should go to bootstrapbschool.org, B standing for business school. So bootstrapbschool.org and apply for a scholarship. We are sponsored by United Way. That's what happened is after we ran the program at THAP, we then ran the next program with the Entrepreneur Collaborative Center in Ybor City. And then last year we applied for and received a grant from United Way, and they are funding, they along with some other sponsors like the Tampa Bay EDC are funding these scholarships. So there's a couple of more spaces, I think, for qualified people. And what qualifies you is if you live in Hillsborough or Pinellas counties, if you're low income, which almost everybody is, to be honest, if you have an idea for a business. And if you have too many ideas, we'll help you narrow it down, but you have to have at least one idea. I also want to put out an invitation for a workshop that we're doing as part of the boot camp, which is going to take place on Wednesday, April 21st at 7 p.m. It's our 17th workshop out of the 21, and it's called Drive Traffic to Your Business. We're going to have a professional trainer from Google teaching people how to put their business up on Google. So anybody who already has a business, if you're not on Google, go to our website, send me an email through the contact form, and I will put you on the list to attend that. And that way you'll also get a little flavor of what the boot camp is about. And then I'm sure that Derrick's going to talk about this a little bit more as well, but the collaboration continues. So because we are helping people start businesses completely from scratch or take a side hustle or a small business that really hasn't quite made it yet and help them solidify it, Derrick and I have worked out something called THAP Scholars. So Derrick's will send people to us from his people who have applied for his accelerator program, but really need a foundation program first. And he will send them to us. And then we will identify people in our program who can benefit from the THAP 5508 accelerator and send them back to Derrick. So we're still working, we're collaborating because our heart is really just to get people to see that they can do this, to get the confidence, to get the training they need, and to get going. And when if you want to take it full circle, imagine Derrick standing there in his work boots, surrounded by the original founders of THAP 5508. They had a vision, they pulled people together, they figured out how to make this happen, even though they didn't have the money. They figured out how to find it. They took step by step, and now it's a living, breathing, phenomenal space. And so I want to tell people, if they're out there listening today and they have that same vision, don't worry about whether you don't have money or connections or training. We're going to show you how to do it, and then we're going to send you over to Derrick for more training.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you so much. And I must say, Derrick Blue, Annabelle is a true collaborator.
Yes.
When she got her grant with United Way, she called me up and she said, "Hey, Cheryl," reintroduced herself. And she said, "I'm a part of your e-blast. This is what I want to do. And we want you to help us in disseminating this information out." She came back here to support the businesses that are here. So she's part of our e-blast now. If you're listening to our show today and you want to take that last spot, make sure you sign up right now, because after this show, it will be cut off. The good news is, however, you will be able to participate in another series coming down very, very soon. Look forward to seeing that on DSI Black Pages. It'll be part of our e-blast, and we'll continue to disseminate information out. And so now, Derrick, we segue to, we talked about being a friend of the city of Tampa. The city of Tampa was there from the beginning. You talked about the relationship. They were at the elevation service, and here we are partnering with the city of Tampa again. We're actually doing 2 programs with the city of Tampa. I'm part of the outreach program for the CRA strategic action plan, and then you are, well, we both are part of the city of Tampa's STAP accelerated program. So talk to us about that, because business owners can't say, pandemic or no pandemic, that there are not resources out here to help small business owners, and the resources are free. Derrick?
Absolutely. So it's as simple as this. If you are in business, you have a desire to grow. Uh, the city of Tampa has invested in your success. And they've done that through their support of our accelerator program. And so what we do is that, as Annabelle mentioned, there are some businesses that should go to BootStrap Business first to get that foundation, to figure out how to get their businesses set up, to figure out how to get their EIN number so they're not paying an arm and a leg to do something that they could just go online and do. How to do those things that they could do. And what the accelerator is for those people who are already established, and perhaps they may have hit a plateau, and they need to be introduced to strategies. Perhaps they need a higher level of accountability. Maybe they need access to other type of resources that could help them. Maybe they want to be connected to start doing contracting work with a university or the federal government or the government. Maybe they need to figure out, what's the most effective way to scale my business from people who've proven that they know how to do it. And that's what this accelerated program is about. Last month we had TD Bank on, and pretty much talked about how they could get PPP loans and other things that they may need to survive the pandemic. You have companies who had 5, 10, 15 employees who in the blink of an eye had to start letting folks off, and that residual impact that it had on families across the country. So introducing them to those type of opportunities, to free resources that may be out there. So, and then at the end of the accelerator, you also are going to get a check to perhaps purchase a piece of equipment that you need, or to pay a month of rent somewhere, or something of that nature. So it's all of that. And the best way to do it is to go to our website. It's fapgroup.org /5508 accelerator. Go to our website, fapgroup.org, fill out the form. The form will take you every bit of 63 seconds to fill out. You can put your information in. It'll ask you if you have Sunbiz, if you've incorporated your business with Sunbiz. Right. If you haven't, be sure to put it there so we can go ahead and refer you over. If you, to talk, just tell us more about your situation. And it's as simple as that. And then once you click the send button, it'll prompt you directly to our network. And then you can go in and you'll be introduced right into the social network, where you'll be able to interact with other entrepreneurs, as well as you'll be introduced to the first set of classes, which are SBA classes on PPP, doing business with the government, all of those kind of things that are, I think, helpful if you're trying to really accelerate. So, take full advantage of it. You can work at your own pace. You get in and you begin to go. It's a track learning process, to where once you finish, you can't go to the next video until you finish the first one. And then on the back end, I'm your own Black Mark Zuckerberg, and I can tell what you're doing, and I can kick you out if I need to. So all of that is available, and it's a valuable resource. And we're connected to BootStrap Business. We're connected to the SBA financial institution, so we can send you where you need to go to get what you need.
And you know what I like about the program, Derrick, and I've been a part of each one that has been introduced to the STAP Accelerated program. And 2 things. One is the way the SBA stepped the consumer through that whole application process.
Right.
I've never seen it quite done that way. I meant from clicking from line 1 to line 2 and explaining why it's important that you fill this information out and saying to the viewer, consumer, where to get this information from. It was very, very user friendly. The second part was Rob West with TD Bank, sending out information beforehand to small business owners saying, listen, if you missed that first draw from the whole COVID stimulus packet because you were such a super small micro business that now, before any of the major corporations could come, they had already carved out a time frame for those micro businesses to come in and meet with them and walk them through that process. And you got to do this long before the major corporations could even submit their applications. And that's what you're getting from the SAP Accelerated program, the caliber of experts that are coming and sharing with us. And you get to do this on your own schedule. And so to hear more about it, sign up. This is it. We're down to our last 2 minutes. We will have the link on our website from the show. You can also find it on DSI Black Pages. You can also find SAP Accelerated program. We'll share that link as well. You can still sign up for the program. But real quick, Derrick, I know this is Wakanda here.
Mm-hmm.
Wakanda is getting ready to introduce another initiative that they kicked off last year. So just a snippet of what's coming down the pipeline in the next 30 seconds here at the SAP group.
Okay, so I'm excited. We partnered with Wells Fargo, received a little bit of funding from Wells Fargo a couple years ago to launch what we were considering what we call the Black Wall Street experience. And it was to commemorate Greenwood and the Black entrepreneurs, the millionaire entrepreneurs, the bankers, the insurance companies. There was a whole ecosystem that existed. And what we wanted to do was kind of breathe life back into that whole movement by creating, we had a play, we had workshops and all of those type of things. And in over the next couple months, we plan to relaunch the Black Wall Street experience. Dr. Kuso will be, of course, a part of that movement. And what we want to do is be able to commemorate that, but then make it Black Wall Street 2.0. And
Black
we kind of go
Street
to
2.0. I like that.
Talk about what's next, and it'll more than likely be a hybrid event. But stay tuned to Let's Talk Business.
Yes.
So keep an eye on the THAP website, the DSI Black Pages Blast, and you'll be hearing more and more about that very, very soon.
Oh my goodness, there's so much going on and so much happening. Annabelle Shipp, thank you so much for spending your hour with us. To our guests who are taking their lunch break to hear more about what's best for their business, what's coming down the pipeline. To my co-host, Derrick Blue, thank you so much. We have so much happening, so please make sure that you are staying plugged in. Much success to both of these phenomenal programs. We will hear more about the program, Annabelle, and some of the facilitators that you have here. But until the first hour of our show in May, first Wednesday, until the blueprint is presented again with what's coming down the pipeline. Thank you, Derrick Blue, and thank you, Annabelle Shipp.
It's a pleasure.
This show is a wrap.